Welcome to Vancouver Carpenter. Today I'm going to teach you guys how to roll out and skim a ceiling. So this can be used to get rid of texture like I have here. It's just a light orange peel texture. Now you might want to make sure that there is no asbestos in your ceiling. So if you haven't had tests done around your house or on the project you're working on, that's not a good idea. Anything pre-1990, there's a possibility that there can be asbestos in the drywall mud and the texture. I'm going to apply the mud with a roller. So this is a 3/4 inch microfiber. I've got a 2-foot extendable handle, and I've got a decent roller cage. So the roller cage, for those of you that don't know, is just this guy. That's why it's called the cage. But what I mean is, don't buy the cheap ones. You want to get the ones with a nice thick part right here. So if this part's nice and thick, then it holds nice and steady as you're rolling. If you buy the cheap flimsy ones, you just don't have as much control. What I will be using to skim with is a 12-inch knife and a pan. You might also want a 6-inch knife for getting into corners and, touching stuff up. That works well. So I have the mud, not super thick and not too runny. You can see it's not dripping easily or quickly, but it will drip. And the process for loading the roller is pretty simple. Just dunk. And then I often will drip it off a bit so it's easier to handle like this. And I'll you see there's a big blob that wants to drip. So I'm not going to wait for it to fall off as I'm working. I'm actually going to reposition it. So it's like dunk. And then what I might do is just sort of hold this thing, and I'm kind of balancing this big drop of mud that wants to fall off, as you can see. So that's a pretty useful thing to know how to do, is to handle the mud, or you can let it fall off if you're willing to slow down a little bit. Next, let's get into getting this stuff on the ceiling, because it's a bit tricky. So I've got this bit that just wants to drip, so I'm trying to manage it here, and I want to be quick. So I'm going to just, so if you're not fast enough, you'll get that, but you want to just get right up here and move quick. And if you don't put the right pressure, what's going to happen is it's actually going to just slide. So instead of rolling, your roller's going to slide and steam plow, like steamroller, this big snow plow. That's the word I'm looking for. It's going to like snow plow all the mud onto your lap and shirt, head, floor, like big blobs. So you got to be quick. So let's see if I can be a little quicker on this. I'm going to start in this corner where I would normally start from. So dunk, shaking off the excess real quick, and slide. Real quick. I'm going the whole length right there. I'm just spreading it out evenly, as close into the corner as I can get it. Shake off the excess material, and that's looking good. Okay, another thing I forgot to mention is normally you should have a coat over top of your joints first. I have a joint right here, but when I checked it, it's actually flat already. So 2 coats of rolling and skimming is actually going to cover this. Okay. Okay, I'm pretty happy with how this is all spread. Alright, clean up this mess. Okay, here's how we're going to do this. I'm going to get the extra material right here, and I'm also going to go right into this corner with that extra material. I'm just going to smooth it out, and what I'm doing is I'm going to be changing the pressure of the blade. So on that first one, I'm angling into the corner, and next I'm going to start angling this way for every single one, if you guys can see that. So this way first, and then this way. So get that extra bit of material, go right into the corner. And I should have actually done that all the way along here first. And if you get a spot like that where there's not enough mud, just take a little bit real quick, just put some on. Let's get back to here. Okay, so So I want a little more in my corners right here. There's not quite enough. And again, I'm going to take a little extra from there, go into the corner. And get rid of these big crusty chunks in my mud. It's a bit of an old bucket I mixed up. So. Okay, back to my other work, lifting off gently as I get there. Okay, this is just the first coat. It doesn't have to be totally perfect. Okay, move quick. Oh, there was a good one, hey? That was from not being able to move in one smooth motion in this little spot. So, it's not the tidiest way. Better make sure you have the place well protected or that stuff doesn't matter. Like as in there's nothing that you're going to damage with this big sloppy method. But it's fast. It's fast and it's beginner friendly. I normally would never actually do this on a ceiling this size. But you know, content guys. Gotta teach yous. I'm going to get this whole space rolled out, and this is probably about 5 by 5 what I'm doing right now. That's a pretty manageable, easy size to do. But you definitely want to make sure, I don't know what you want to make sure it's something. Oh, I was going to say make sure it's even, which is what I'm doing right now. If you need just a little bit, you can dunk just a tiny bit in there, like I do right here. It's just kind of hard to actually place it exactly where you want it, but I did okay there. Okay, so this is my first coat, and I actually want to leave it on kind of heavy. I'm not taking off everything I put on. Alright, it's the exact same thing. Check your knife blade to make sure you're using it the right way, that it's convex, like the curved side up to the ceiling. That matters. Okay, grab some mud from the corner. I'm doing the whole way down. It doesn't hurt to be back here either. Running the risk of it drying on me, but let's see if I can keep up. Okay, now let's finish this. Not thick enough here. Some sort of concrete or rock in my mud. That's not cool. Add a little there. Back to this part before it dries up. Okay, I need to come in at it this way. There we go. And I can see I didn't have quite enough on here. Okay, I am happy with that. It's pretty nice. You can see the exposed bits of mud were sucking up the moisture there, but it's generally pretty flat. There's that tape joint. Now let's look at the walls. Yeah, looking good. Looking good. The floors, looking even better. Don't step in that. And somehow I survived the onslaught of mud, relatively unscathed. Except for my arms. Next, wrap this up for the next day. The ceiling's had a chance to dry, and I just gave it a quick sand with my trusty old sanding pole with some 120 grit on it to burn it down real quick. Really quickly push the sanding sponge through the corners. And now I'm about to do the second coat, and just to switch it up a little, I'm going to do the second coat with the Hawk and Trowel, see if I'm any more proficient with that. I'm now going to roll this out again, but I'm going to go in the opposite direction for no other reason other than to get a little more distance in here. I've also got this mud mixed a little bit thicker. The reason being, I just mixed up a whole bucket and I don't want to have super thin mud for my other jobs. But it's putting on a way thicker coat right now. Which is actually a good thing. One of the things I love about this method is it really, by pushing it around, it seems to work the bubbles out a lot. So when you finally go and trowel it down, there's very few bubbles because they've all been pushed in and worked out. Get in here a little bit closer. Here, spread that out a little bit better. Okay, that is looking nice and ready. I'm gonna get everything put into the corners. Okay. Wanting to bubble a little bit over this dent shield. Which is kind of annoying. It's making me have to take it off a bit more. But overall it's leaving a real nice coat. I'm wiping it pretty tight. I'm maybe only leaving a big 1/6 of mud on here, but it came out real nice where it started to go over the old textured ceiling instead of the dent shield. And it just needs one last wipe in this corner to get all that stuff cleaned up. So that's just a quick pass with the knife. And here's where the 12-inch knife is a little bit more handy. It's easier to get into those corners and clean up. That looks better. Just giving it a little dunk for spots like this, just to get enough material on there. Just dip the edge instead of the whole roller. I only moved into my work, my existing smoothed out stuff by a couple inches. As long as you have enough mud on here, it's thick enough, it's not going to dry out on you too fast. Make sure to scrape the edge of your trowel quickly because it will probably have been drying off while you've been rolling. Get it right into them corners. I like the trowel for this better. But again, I'm biased because I'm more comfortable with this. Okay, keep your edges clean. Okay, there's this little motion I want to explain, and I do this a lot. I kind of go in and then I slide my trowel over. What I'm doing is I'm kind of sharpening up the edge. I find when I just splap it up and then pull, it can leave it a little crusty. But when I give it just like a little, it sort of flattens and sharpens out the edge. Let me know if anybody else does that. I don't think it's like trowel procedures 101, it's just something I do. And just as always, I've started on one end, leaned over, right? I've started leaned over like this, and I go over that way to not be leaving those lines. That is troweling 101. See lines, I just come back and hope that it's gone. You know, no technique, I'm just guessing. Okay, so I'm staying away about 1.5 inches from this corner on my last pass. One more here. Oh, why is there something in the mud? There we go. That's all looking good. So here is the line that I've left 1.5 inches away roughly. I'm checking the curve of my knife, and I should have done something to not have to look at my blade by this point, but up into the corner like so, gently. And I'm keeping it a bit like this, but up into the corner, and then just run it past. Run it past. As you guys can see, it's looking pretty darn smooth. You know, just some small lift offs, nothing major. Real easy sanding. Well guys, the autofocus crapped out on me again. I'm still figuring this thing out. But what I was going to say is, after those couple of skims, I let it dry overnight. and I just sanded it down with some 150 sanding paper, this foam back stuff on a roll. This is the best stuff by far. You're gonna get the least amount of scratches and the nice finish, the nicest finish. So always look for the foam back stuff if you can find it. I'll try and put a link in the description if I can. And one last thing, while you're sanding, if you can, get a light up close to the ceiling and shine it down across the ceiling. That way you're gonna be able to see all of your lift-offs. And so instead of over sanding the entire ceiling to make sure you get the whole thing, you can see all your lift-offs and you can see when you're done, and you can also see if you're scratching it. So that way you're gonna leave a way better finish with way less work. Anyways, that is finally it. So thanks for watching Vancouver Carpenter. I hope you guys got something useful out of this video. I know it's pretty similar to one I already put out, but I wanted to do something a little more in depth. So thanks for watching, and till the next video.